Back to another episode of Just Hoop Talk with Justin Henry, Will Thompson, and today we're going over the free agency period that was and is still going on, talking about some of the major moves that happened. We saw a couple big sign and trade deals.
Yeah.
We saw some people move to different teams, some underrated pickups. But we're going to cover everything free agency related, including winners and losers from the free agency period. Make sure you're subscribed to Just Hoop Talk. We got some awesome shows on the
Yes.
way coming to you and an awesome offseason. We're going to talk about everything, dissect it all from rookies to offseason rumors, you name it, covering what's next for a lot of these teams. So be sure to subscribe, like, and share the channel. As far as free agency goes, man, we saw some big moves. One of the very
Yeah.
first deals that we saw happen, it was two of them actually. Lonzo Ball and Kyle Lowry getting
Mhm.
new teams. Lonzo Ball to the Bulls, Kyle Lowry to the Heat. A little changing of the guard, yes, pun
Yeah.
intended on that one. Changing of the guard for some of these teams in the East. What was your initial feedback, man, when you saw? I was like, bro, this free agency is going to be lit if that's what's happening.
You know what? Honestly, what my first thought process was, I was like, sign and trade. How is that not tampering, bro? Like, you know how they keep talking about
Yeah.
tampering, right? How did they do a sign and trade immediately after free agency open when they're not supposed to be talking about this type of stuff? So that was the first thing that came to my mind, was like, okay, like that's obviously tampering,
They
right?
called him out on it.
Yeah. I never understood that rule. Anyways, it seems kind of dumb, but like that one seemed to be obvious to me. But the interesting thing, I think, with what we saw was like a few teams did really well, and everyone else just kind of struggled. Man, everyone else was just like grasping at straws. Like, I don't know, sign this dude. Like, pick him up. Does he even fit on our team? I don't know. Like, they were just signing people. It was
Yeah,
a
there were so
awkward.
many guys out there, dude. It was almost like, what's going to happen? Like it
Yeah,
felt like there was going to be a lot of seismic moves being made.
it felt like there was almost like FOMO for
Yep.
teams. Like teams were just doing like signing players just to sign players. So they're seeing everybody else sign, and guys are just going, and they're like, well, we thought we were gonna get this guy, we thought we were gonna get DeMar, we thought we were gonna get Lowry, and then now we're
Yeah.
like, I don't know, sign this guy and pay him way too much. And so it seemed like it got a little messy, man. Like it really did. And
Yeah.
there was some head scratchers for sure, dude.
There were. And I think coming into free agency, the cool thing was like we knew that there were going to be some moves made, obviously, with the Bucks winning the championship. I think a lot of teams were like, all right, well, we gotta make moves,
Yep.
man, make heavy hitting moves. And we've heard, all the rumors about the Warriors making a move to go get a
Mm-hmm.
superstar. We heard Damian Lillard,
Right.
vent some frustration. We knew that the Clippers and the Lakers were looking at adding pieces around them, and obviously one of them made a huge splash. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil who it was, Lakers. But we saw a lot of dynamic pieces that we thought, we were thinking, hey, this is going to have a huge impact. And I'm not sure that it had the impact that we thought, even though it did. Like you mentioned, some of these teams were signing players just to sign them because there's an opportunity right now.
Right.
There's an opportunity, and I think the Jazz and the Suns and the
Mm-hmm.
Hawks are kind of showing like if you're just right place, right time, you got an
True. Yeah.
opportunity, you know?
100%.
And so I kind of want to go over some of these signings and just talk about the impact. Obviously, the Bulls got Lonzo Ball and then later got DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Feedback on that, man. What are you thinking with this Bulls team, this new look Chicago Bulls team with Zach LaVine, Vucevic, and now adding Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan?
Yeah. For me, it's good to see Chicago moving in the right direction. I don't know if this puts them on a championship level, but it's good to see some solid pieces. They're starting to build a team with a little bit of identity. It's been a while since we've seen that, since the Derrick Rose days. Like
Yeah.
Chicago has really been struggling, and that's a great basketball city. That's a historic basketball franchise. Like it's one of those teams that obviously they haven't been good in a while, but when they're good, it's good for the league, and it's good to see them moving in the right direction. They're the type of team like they're like the Lakers, they're like the Celtics, right? Like they should be doing well. They should be able to
Right.
bring free agents, and they should be able to get big names. And so it's good to see them being aggressive and trying to make moves like that.
Yeah, and I really liked what the Bulls did, and I think this puts them on the map to be top 5, 6 type of
Right.
team in the East. Obviously, we'll do our rankings later when it gets closer to the season, but it reminds me a lot of what the Hawks did, just kind of being
Yeah.
really aggressive last year and getting pieces that will help a team. I mean, to be honest, that's 4 like all-star caliber players in the
Yeah.
lineup at once. So I want to see how they all play together, how it all works, and obviously they got to fill that bench out. Mark Hakenen's probably out of the door, and they got to figure out some of these other pieces. But right now, Kobe White coming off the bench, potentially coming in the lineup, they got a good little setup, man. So I can't be mad at what the Bulls did. And then the Heat, obviously re-signing, they re-upped Jimmy Butler for the max. I think it was like 185 million over 4 years. They re-signed, huge re-signing for them. Duncan Robinson, big payday for him, well-deserved G League alum, getting paid there. And then obviously added Kyle Lowry as well. This Heat team, man, they want to get back to the championship, don't they?
Yeah. We talked about them last year. I think we talked about them needing a point guard and them needing another leader outside of Jimmy and a court general, and we felt like that's really what they were missing in the finals, when they played the Lakers. And so that's a huge piece for them. And we've seen they're kind of following the formula that the Suns had. Obviously, they're a much better team than the Suns, but you bring in a veteran point guard into a team that has this good, solid core, and you're hoping that that player is able to take you over the top. And I mean, I don't see it making them any worse. That's for damn sure. I feel like, Lowry is a solid player, solid defender. He fits their culture. A floor general is going to make sure guys are in the right place. He's going to take care of the bigs, make sure they're feeding out of bio. Like all that type of stuff is good for them. I think it's a great move. I really like it a lot.
I like it. It just doesn't excite me. I think it would have excited me if they would have made this move like last year in the middle of their other run. But to me, another year older on Lowry, does he really provide that much more than Gordon Dragic right now? I think he does, but it doesn't seem like it's really a huge level up for them, like especially with the teams that are in the East right now.
Exactly.
The Hawks obviously still being there, the Bucks still being there, the Nets still being there, and the other teams are looking to improve, man. I don't know. To me, it wasn't a shockwave type move. Kind of reminded me of like the Oladipo move. Like you get a little bit better, but not really like champion. This is a championship caliber team now. So, I mean, obviously it remains to be seen, but we can't keep going in this episode without talking about the move, man.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma traded to the Washington Wizards for Russell Westbrook, man. Obviously, the Los Angeles Lakers acquiring Russell Westbrook, man. And to me, this deal, obviously, it's not a free agency deal, but this move really kind of changed the trajectory of free agency because the Lakers then added so many other pieces to this team. We're talking, players that are high caliber players. Dwight Howard, we got Trevor Ariza came over, Carmelo Anthony, like it just changed the whole tilt. Malik Monk, like Kendrick Nunn, that move right there changed all of free agency very quickly. What do you think about the Lakers, man? Going and being super, super aggressive, going and getting Russell Westbrook. Obviously, I'm a fan of the move, but I want to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting to me, I didn't really think about this, but just hearing you say that out loud, I think about how lopsided that sounds. The Lakers trading Kyle Kuzma for Russell Westbrook. Like, what is history going to say about that trade?
KCP. I'm trying to think of the other pieces. It was like Kuzma, KCP, and like a draft pick or some shit.
Yeah, still like that seems so lopsided. If you say it out loud, it's like, yo, what? How did they manage that? This dude's about to be a Hall of Famer, an MVP. Like, how did that happen? But that's that Laker magic, bro. I don't know how the Lakers keep coming up with these wild deals, bro, but they make everything happen.
Restructure Kuzma's deal just in turn to trade him for Westbrook. That's crazy, man.
But with the Lakers, man, like, at first I was a little skeptical, and I was like, because I felt like they put way too much money into a bunch of old guys, and I didn't think they had any room to make any other moves. And then when they went and got Kendrick Nunn on top of it, and then they went and got who else did they get?
Malik Monk,
Malik
Melo,
on top of
Dwight.
it, and they got these guys at like what are they paying them? Not even the mid level. They're paying them at like something ridiculous. These guys came for nothing. They came to the Lakers for nothing. It's just like, man, the Lakers always. Being a Kings fan, I'm a little bitter. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like this team always figures it out, bro. As soon as I think like, oh, not gonna work. Nope, not gonna work, and they figure out a way to make it work, bro. So. It's coming from a salty Kings fans perspective. Like it's a little hard to take, man. It's a little hard.
Coming from an excited Laker fan, man, I love this move, and I think the early skepticism was like, oh, well, they got Westbrook, they didn't get any shooters, or they're all old guys. Now you got Dwight Howard and Carmelo and Trevor Ariza, so it's all old guys now. And people forget like LeBron ain't dead. LeBron's 35, 36, bro. Like he's 36 years old.
Yeah.
AD is not dead. He's like 28. Westbrook is like 33. He's still in his prime, quote unquote. Like Carmelo, we just saw him scoring 10 a game. Like to me, this stuff is crazy when people are talking about how old this team is. And yeah, it was like a team in the past would have been elite. Like maybe we're not getting, but Russell Westbrook, damn near, what did he average a triple-double last year? Like, what are we really talking about here?
Yep.
And so to me, it's really wild to just see, hear the stuff that's come out. And I think the biggest thing to me that has sat the wrong way with me is that there's going to be a chemistry issue. Like who's going to get the ball, LeBron or Westbrook? And I feel like they're going to feed off each other so well.
Yeah.
We saw Westbrook be able to do this in Houston when it was just him and James Harden.
Yeah.
They played well. They pushed the Lakers to everybody thought that they were going to upset the Lakers. Obviously, that didn't happen because the Lakers had LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
Now we add Russell Westbrook, who doesn't only have James Harden there. He has LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
That to me is like the perfect setup for him because now he's not taking it all on himself when the star comes out the game. He's going in with AD. He's going in with Bron. Shit, if he goes by himself, they put other pieces around him, Carmelo, Dwight, Malik Monk, like other players who can deliver. This setup to me is like, how does this team not win the championship, man? I don't see any other team beating fully healthy, all teams fully healthy. I don't see how the Lakers lose, man. Tell me something else. Tell me something different. I don't see how they lose. This trio is better. Bron, AD, and Westbrook is better than KD, Kyrie, and James.
We talked a little bit about this the other day. I'll still take KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, but that would be an incredible NBA Finals. I know the NBA is probably like, please, bro, let this happen. Let this happen. But if you look at the team, the Lakers last year, think about the way they were built, or the year they won the championship. Think about the way they were constructed. They had LeBron, AD, and they had, I don't think another dude averaged over 10 points a game. Maybe Dennis Schroeder did for a while, maybe Montrezl Harrell, but they didn't have anyone really significant around them. So you take those same two guys and you surround them with like really good players, sprinkle in some young guys, some guys that can come off the bench and get buckets. And it's scary, bro. It really is.
Scary hours indeed, man. Well, obviously you like one of those teams more than the other. So let's get into some winners and some losers of this free agency period. Some other notable pickups before we move on. We saw a lot of re-signings. There was a lot like Chris Paul re-upped. We saw Norman Powell re-up with the Blazers.
Yeah.
We saw Mike Conley re-up as well. We saw Andre Drummond go to the Sixers, which I thought was a really odd fit. Rashawn Holmes, Kings fans are happy he's back. He got paid.
Yeah.
Jarrett Allen got a huge contract from the Cavs, man. Yeah. Very big contract there. And then a lot of like re-signings. There wasn't a whole lot of other seismic moves that happened.
Also, Luka got big money.
Who?
Luka.
Oh yeah, Luka. Oh yeah, some of those the draft picks, man, they're coming up with crazy money now. Steph got re-upped too, $200 million as well. So the NBA is handing out money. Who do you think right now? If you had let's start with losers first.
Okay.
Who is your biggest loser? Because obviously we saw the opportunity for a lot of these teams, and not all of them capitalized on it.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your biggest loser
I
for
think
this NBA free agency period?
I think I have the Pelicans circled at the top of my list. I think
Oh,
this was
yeah.
a big year for them, man. And we heard the rumblings towards the end of the season last year from Zion's camp or whatever, his people, about him not being happy in New Orleans and them not being able to surround him with talent. And then they go out and lose Lonzo Ball, who I felt like had a good chemistry with Zion.
Yeah.
They go out and lose him, essentially don't pick anyone up to replace him. They get Devontae Graham, who's not really a point guard, more of a scoring guard, and is
Yeah.
definitely not a big splash in free agency. So they didn't get better, bro. They definitely did not get better, and that does not bode well for a small market franchise who's trying to keep a superstar in their grasp. It's not looking good for the Pelicans, man.
Yeah, I think Zion is 1 foot out the door right now with the way things are set up, man. It's
Yeah.
not looking good for them. Another superstar who probably has 1 foot out the door is Damian Lillard, man. We heard while he was in Team USA, they're over in Tokyo, man. We heard the
Yeah.
grumbling, so we know something's going on there.
Yeah.
Obviously, he wanted to make a splash in free agency,
Yeah.
and they just re-signed Norman Powell. So to me, it's not seeming very likely that Damian Lillard is going to be a trailblazer for much longer than this season, man. Very disappointed in the Trailblazers for not being a little bit more aggressive, going and getting a piece that could really help him, man, whether it's via trade or signing, because obviously we know this team's not winning a championship as is. And to just re-sign a player, I think they gave him a 5-year deal too. Like, Powell's nice, but they needed something a little bit more powerful than Powell. Another loser I want to highlight before we move on to winners, and if you have any players or anything as losers, feel free to chime in afterward. But the Philadelphia 76ers, man, that's a big L, walking L right now as the number 1 seed last year.
Yep.
To have everything that's going on with Ben Simmons right now and to not get that figured out, and then to add more drama with the whole Embiid and Andre Drummond friction that was there and signing him. I don't know what's going on with this Philadelphia team. It seemed like Daryl Morey was in there making some strong moves. Doc Rivers had this team ready to go. And that loss to the Hawks has unraveled this team. I was expecting a little bit better free agency moves from them, whether it was either getting rid of Simmons or at least addressing the problem and bringing in somebody else besides an Andre Drummond, like somebody who could help this team. They lost Dwight Howard and added Drummond and are on the verge of losing Ben Simmons. It's not looking good for the Sixers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like Trae Young just destroyed their whole franchise, bro. Like, it's falling apart quickly over there. And from what I'm hearing, I think everyone's hearing the same thing, is they're asking for way too much for Ben Simmons, and people just are like,
hey, I don't think it's too much.
Yeah, I mean, like, they got to move him, though, right? Like, it's so awkward. Like, you got to move him. You got to get him out of there. I don't know that he wants to be there anymore. Like, I think he's ready to go. He's ready for a change. I don't think he wants to deal with Sixers fans anymore. Like, they got to make a move, and you got to be realistic. They could have got draft picks. They could have got, a nice solid guard in return, and looking like they're just going to have, like you said, an awkward ass situation, dude. Like, so it might be ugly there, bro.
It might be, man. And so hopefully they get it all figured out, man. Otherwise, the number 1 team will not be that this year. There's going to be a lot of issues there. But there were some good moves made. Obviously, we highlighted a few of these different teams that made splashes. Who's your biggest winner, man? I'm just going to ask straight up, who's your biggest winner and why?
I like what the Bulls did. Again, we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but I like the fact that they were just aggressive.
They got a good setup.
I'm a big fan of Lonzo. Like, he's like an old school, traditional, just true point guard, and he's been developing himself into a much better shooter, much better scorer. So I think that's a huge pickup for them. And then DeMar is a solid pro. Like, DeMar kind of reminds me of Zach LaVine. I think they're pretty similar. But he's a solid pro, nice pickup. And then they already kind of had a nice core. I don't know what's happening with Markkanen, if they're going to re-sign him or if it's a sign and trade situation.
Yeah, it looks like he's out of there.
Yeah, it's looking good for them. And I'm excited to see good basketball back in Chicago, man. It's about time.
Yeah, I really like Chicago's moves, and obviously, I'll go with the Lakers. To me, they made championship moves. That's what championship teams do. Another underrated team, I think, that made a pretty good move, not just with the draft that they had, but then also in free agency and getting Kelly Oubre. I think the Charlotte Hornets are
Yeah,
trying to set themselves up here for a little playoff run. So
yeah,
obviously, they got Book Knight in the draft, and then they signed Kelly Oubre. This team, to me, I think they're making some sneaky moves. So
yeah,
I like what the Hornets did. If we're going with somebody just a little off the radar, I think they're setting the Mellow up with pieces that he can
yep.
really utilize here moving forward. So I like that pickup for them. Another loser. We got to talk about this, man. Players, man.
Man,
Players sometimes shoot themselves in the foot. And
man,
obviously, Dennis Schroeder,
man.
the talk of NBA free agency, turned down over $20 million a year with the Lakers. Uh, for a player who's been on the bench for a majority of his career, um, now looking at signing a 1 year, 5 million, 5.6 or 5.4 mid level exception
Yeah,
type deal with the Boston Celtics, bro. Is this the L of L's, man? This is almost like I haven't seen nothing like this since DeMarcus failed, man.
yeah, yeah. DeMarcus and Isaiah Thomas like are the first people that come to mind and just left a ton of money on the table. It's kind of sad to see, man.
Yeah,
It's like you hate to see that a dude who he's a hard worker. You know, I feel like he got elevated to a level that he probably shouldn't have been at,
yeah, I
and he
agree with
played
that.
really well early on in the season, and people kind of set a super high expectation for him, and I feel like he believed it. He started like like back in the day, the saying was like, "Don't read your own news clippings," right? Like
Yep.
he was reading his own news clippings, and he was like, "Oh, I'm that dude, bro. 84 million, come on, man. Like I need 100 mil," and like now,
Signed in LA. He
yeah,
was ready to spend it
he,
all.
he was feeling himself, bro. He was definitely feeling himself, and now I'm sure if he had to go back, he would take that contract right away,
Facts.
bro.
Facts. Well, hey, things work out the way they're supposed to, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
NBA free agency, man. So let us know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Who are your winners? Who are your losers? Is it Schroeder? Is it somebody else,
Whew.
man?
Yeah.
Let us know. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. Share this on your
Yeah.
favorite chat forum, whatever it is. We'll debate with whoever. Also, check us out on Halftime Hoops. We're on the app every Wednesday night at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. We go
Mm-hmm.
and talk live with you guys. So anything else is free agency, Will? I'm good, man. That was a
Nah,
good
man.
good
Yeah.
conversation, man.
Yeah, still a few deals left to be made. Some players out there. JJ Reddick is another guy who's still available, man. Pick him up.
Somebody's gonna pick them up.
Yeah.
One of them playoff teams, the
Yep,
Nets. The
exactly.
Nets are on the phone right now.
Yep. Oh, you already know. You already know.
That does it for another episode of Just Hoop Talk Free Agent Edition. We are out.
Peace.